Mhm. We got it.
And Happy New Year. This is December 31st.
Mhm.
Welcome to the Crypto Market Update. I'm Allen Wazny, your host, and I've got Mark Magliocco on the line. Mark from formerly X528. Mark, give us an update of what's happening with the X528 and now SwapAcross.
Yeah, hello. Happy New Year, everybody, or Happy New Year's Eve. And
Yeah.
hope everyone has a great 2024 filled with riches and a crypto bull run, hopefully. Yeah, so X528, sadly, we've kind of, we've rebranded it, but, I think like in my heart, at some point, I would still love to maybe launch a meme coin using X528 at some point in the future. But for now, we have rebranded. I mean, we partnered up with the Hourglass Collective. Super grateful for all those guys and that team. Been a huge help in so many different ways. Especially shout out to Jet, Coach K. Yeah, thanks for all the help, man. That's solid guys. But anyway, so yeah, with their help and guidance, we've rebranded to SwapAcross. It just makes more. It's like the name. I mean, since we've had the name X528, people always ask like, "Oh, what's that? Why
What do you do?
528? What does it mean?"
Yeah.
And so like, and their influencer network, like I mean, Coach K's influencer, Jet, same thing. Like, and they've got the Hourglass Collective, and they're like, if we keep it as 528, every single one of our followers is gonna ask us like, "Why 528?" It's just gonna keep coming up. So like, let's just create something simpler that's like easier to remember and just makes more sense from like a commercial standpoint. So SwapAcross, I mean, that's exactly what we're doing, right? Swapping across. And the .com was available, the .io, the .eth, everything. So we just went the Twitter, everything. We just scooped it all up. So yeah, we are now SwapAcross, but we need to change these backgrounds.
I
And
like the
then
background. I do. I think it looks like a spinner, one of those. I told you, fidget spinners. 5, 6 years ago, my daughters were into fidget spinners, and they were buying these things like they were hot everywhere, and you couldn't find them. And then that's
Mhm.
if I don't know if you remember the fidget spinners, like a star, like the or those twinkle. What are they called? Those used to play the
Oh, like the little
twinks,
twill tops.
or you spin
Yeah,
the like tops or something like that. Anyway, we're
yeah,
getting
yeah,
back
yeah,
to Mark.
yeah.
This is episode number 16. Mark, I should give the qualifier. Episode number 16 of our crypto market update, but all discussions in this episode and past episodes and maybe future ones are for international purposes, are for informational purposes only, and should not be relied upon as legal, business, investment, or tax advice. It's incredible, Mark. This was an amazing year, 2023. We saw a lot of ups and downs, and mostly
Mhm.
up on the major cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin being one of them. But let's start. Do you have some highlights you want to talk about? Because I've got a couple as
Yeah, do
well.
you want to start with the charts or should we start with the doesn't matter either or, I guess.
Well, let's start with the charts. We'll see where we're
Share
at,
screen?
and for point
There
of
we go, yeah.
reference, where Bitcoin is today. If
Yep.
you saw my LinkedIn post yesterday, I went
Mm-hmm.
back on the reason I went 7 years, because when I started my journey into crypto was 2017. So I looked at the closing price on 30th of December for
Mm-hmm.
17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and yesterday. So once you're going through the charts, I'll summarize those numbers.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I saw your post there. Very interesting. I mean, you can see like the lows, they don't stay, right? So, but yeah, I guess in the last podcast that we did last week, I was saying it was probably going to stick around like, 42 to 46,000. And it's kind of stayed within those ranges still,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, it's just like you can see, it's just really pop. Like there's a lot of, it's really bullish right now. A lot of like really big momentum in Bitcoin last 3 months, and I think a lot of it has to do with these spot ETF approvals, which I had heard was supposed to happen potentially before the end of the year, but I didn't read anything specifically about it, so I
No,
missed
the
it
year
or
end. So what happened last week was the deadline to file your
right, it was
application,
the 29th, yeah,
and the ruling was going to come in just in January. So
right, yeah.
people were scrambling to get their filings done. And
Mhm.
and on that note, on the ATF, so one of the podcasts I listened to this week with Unchained Laura Shin's podcast, and she interviewed from the fellow from Swan VC, and he talked a
Mhm.
lot about Bitcoin. So we can talk about it a little bit when you talk about stuff, but he talked about what that ETF means in comparison to, say, the Nasdaq QQQ and things like that. It was an interesting discussion.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's exciting stuff though. I think, and I can really see there's a lot of bullish momentum going on in Bitcoin. But it's just like it's week to week right now. It's just it's ripped up so much that it's I would expect it to continue treading water for probably the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I'd say going into January, you're probably going to see it maybe come down to like 39,000, maybe even a little bit lower, and then it'll probably go back up around 40. It's just going to hover around there for the next couple of weeks, would be my guess. Yeah, not financial advice, but yeah, it's pretty much
Well,
it for the charts.
So it's Corey Klippstein. Corey Klippstein he's the CEO of Swan or Swan VC, and they're really focused on building out infrastructure for Bitcoin and enabling people to use Bitcoin for other areas and trading Bitcoin and so forth. It's a really interesting podcast. I'll put that in the episode notes as a reference point. But one thing he was saying, Mark, he said, as Bitcoin's always done, it'll go up again. He says it'll probably hit this year its all-time high, or even breach it or get over it. But as it's done the last 15 years since its inception, it's always drops. And he said, be prepared for any Bitcoin holders, be prepared for it to drop 40% after it reaches its all-time high. So he's going, he says, this is what happens in the space. So it's a very interesting podcast to listen to his views on. Yeah.
I mean, I could see it hitting the all-time high. I would say like probably March. It'll hit the all-time high. March, April, you'll see it back around like 60,000 would be my guess. But we'll see what happens from the next like few weeks, right? Anything can happen. That's just the thing, right? But yeah.
Well, before you go to the 2023 articles, I want to. So the other thing he was saying is, for people that hold Bitcoin, there's no incentive. There's no incentive. The Lightning Network helps in speed, but gas price or the price to trade, say to buy a pizza. Everyone always references the pizza. What it needs is the rails to allow payment. Like the existing rails, say your Visa, your MasterCard, your debit card, whatever it is. He said once Bitcoin gets high enough over the years, then it'll be incentives for venture capital companies to invest in those payment rails. Layer one, allowing people to use Bitcoin on everyday transactions. But for now, he says most people will hold it for its value, store value, for it to appreciate, and so there's no incentive to spend it for minor things. So that's an interesting part of the discussion as well.
Yeah, Bitcoin's interesting. I think like a lot of people look at it kind of like digital gold, right? So I mean, you wouldn't like go and spend gold for payment, like paying for stuff. And just the infrastructure isn't there. But I mean, if you look at now, I mean, even how they're saying they want to build out like the Bitcoin, I think it's like the Bitcoin maxis, right? They only think they kind of like lose sight of the technology behind it. And it's like, yeah, I mean, Ethereum, like, it's so far, like, it's like light years ahead of the Bitcoin network, and like in terms of what, like the L2s, the L3s on it, all the dev tools, all the devs that are coding on it, like, for Bitcoin to catch up, it's like, I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's like,
no, it's a different
different like planet altogether, right? But yeah, I mean, Ethereum, like they already have the payment rails in Ethereum, right? And I mean, you can pay using Bitcoin, like on, I think like coin payments. I'm pretty sure you can pay using Bitcoin and stuff. But it's there's just like it's
oh, that's interesting.
You can't use the Bitcoin network per se, right? But I think you can pay using supported coins. Let's see, I'm pretty sure you can pay. Yeah, so you can pay using Bitcoin. You can't use the Bitcoin network, but it doesn't even make sense to use a Bitcoin network. They got like a 10-minute block time. You'd be sitting at the store for like 10 minutes waiting for your goddamn transaction to get approved.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they'd have to build out the L2s and stuff. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But yeah.
So I spent some time, and it looks like you as well, looking at 2023, the year in crypto, and just a point of reference before we jump into that, because the price of Bitcoin at this time last year was, I think, 16,000. Let me just double check that. You know what? I don't want to share the screen because it's on a weird ass thing. Today, yesterday was 42,250. I think it's about the same today. 16,547 last year at this time, and then 46,306 at the end of 2021. Yep. So that was interesting. We're actually below 2 years ago time, and then in 2020, 29,000. 2019. I'm actually shocked by the 18 and 19 prices. I didn't even, Bitcoin was 7,100, 7,200
Yeah.
in
Oh yeah, man.
2019.
It didn't really pop 10K until, I mean, I think it popped in like 2017, right? Or 16, one of the two.
Well, so 2018, it was
Yeah.
3,700 at the end of
Yeah.
December, but it also hit its all-time high
Yeah.
in 2017, the year before. So
Right.
massive drop because at the end
Hmm.
of December of 2017, it was at 14,000, and I mentioned that was
Wow.
that was a year when Bitcoin was rising tremendously from 7,000, 8, 9, 10. It went up to its 19,000 all-time high back in 2017, and it was
Hmm.
just it was insane. Everyone's like, "Oh, should I buy crypto? Should I buy Bitcoin?" And that so it's just interesting to see the dip in 18, 19 before it recovered in 20. So
It's still like a very volatile asset, right? I mean, but ultimately, like if you're smart enough to buy those lows, I mean, I'm sure your
yeah.
DCA, like your dollar cost average, would be amazing right now, right? But yeah, I mean, it's always like, hindsight's 2020, right? But
Well, that's what
yeah,
something they were saying. Grayscale,
yeah,
something
ETF.
because they were talking. There was a podcast I listened to was the blockchain or the chain reaction podcast, and they were interviewing a fellow about the whole, the legislation and is it going to be cash or in kind, for the ETFs. And he
Hmm.
said he referenced to Grayscale. They thought their all in or their adjusted cost base was roughly 16 to 17,000, which is the price that I mean that's incredible, right? So they're sitting on massive gains or paper gains.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
all
exactly.
right, Mark. So you've got some articles for 2023. So just
Yeah,
to look back at 23, there was some pretty
right.
cool stuff that happened.
Yeah, I found a good one because I was kind of looking for something that summed up, and there was like some stuff in here that I even forgot about. So I can go. So the first one, I had forgot about this. So USDC lost
Yeah,
its peg when I
that's
forgot
right.
all about, this like this 2023 was a crazy year. You had the bank runs, you had Silicon Valley Bank went under, and like, oh, like there was a few banks that went under, right? And it was like, oh, I totally forgot about that.
That's
And then
right.
I forgot about USD. I was pissed because I had sent payments to one of our vendors in USDC, and then or I had it in my account because like that's what we were using to pay vendors, and I was like, shit, like now my USDC, I think it dropped like 10%, right?
Well, I think it
15%
was trading
drop.
at 88. It was trading at
Yeah.
88 or
And I
something at
was
one
like,
point.
what? No, I thought I was like paranoid, but then Circle came in and they were like, oh, we're gonna replenish whatever had
And I
happened. Like
think
they're
Circle is
yeah.
backed by JP Morgan or something like that, aren't
Yeah,
they?
they've got deep pockets, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And then this one I didn't even hear about. Euler Finance, 197 million flash loan attack. So someone had found a bug in their
Yeah.
code. They fixed it, and then after they fixed it, it created another bug, and they they got hacked. Oh, this was on. Oh, this is on multi-chain. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, the
Okay.
multi-chain. That was a different one. That was a different bug hack. Yeah, there were some big hacks this year too.
So let's go
Classic.
with the Taylor Swift one. I
Yeah,
mean,
North
I didn't
Korea.
realize she had anything to do with crypto, or she
Oh yeah,
potentially
well,
had.
so it's talking about FTX, right? You think, yeah, FTX was like, well, FTX was 22, but so Taylor Swift had gotten approached by Sam Bankman-Fried, but she didn't invest. So
Wow.
it's yeah, questioned if FTX is, yeah, a smart girl, man. Not only is she a sexy girl with a beautiful voice, she's also got a brain on her. Look at that,
Well,
clever girl.
they call it Swiftonomics for a reason. She's a smart girl,
Swiftonomics.
and she's still dating.
Yeah.
I don't know. I saw something it's on the rocks with the pressure's getting
Oh.
to them with the publicity with
Oh, I don't
the
know.
fellow from
Oh,
Kansas
was she
City
dating
Chiefs.
that like what wasn't she dating like Kelsey? Like wasn't she dating
Yes,
the football
Kelsey.
player?
Yeah, Jason Kelsey.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, I was
not
like,
Jason
wow,
Kelsey.
man, he's just
Yeah.
like that's pretty cool. Good for them. Yeah.
Okay. So
Anyway,
BlackRock. This
yeah, of
is
course the ETFs we were just
yeah.
talking about those, so that's a huge one though, the BlackRock filing, right? I mean, that's a big one. And here's the rest of them. Look at all of them listed here. You got Bitwise, VanEck, Wisdom Tree, Invesco, Galaxy, Fidelity, Valkyrie. Like these are massive funds, like Franklin
Especially
Templeton.
that
I mean,
Van Eck.
these
Van
guys,
Eck is quite
Van Eck
huge.
is huge. It's massive. Yeah, I
Franklin
bet you
Templeton. I
like,
mean,
yeah, combined
it'll be interesting to
assets
see.
under
It'll be
management
interesting
for
to
like,
see who comes out of that one. Because this Corey Clipston, what he was saying is with the ETF,
mm-hmm,
what'll happen is all the marketing once they get approval, they're going to push it like all the other mutual funds and other most ETFs. He said QQQ and so forth. You're going to see them advertising everywhere for their ETF, for people to buy their ETF or to trade with their ETF. So there's going to be an incredible amount of attention in that space.
Massive money pouring in there, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it, like some of these institutional players, maybe like the old traditional ones, they don't want to go and buy Bitcoin. But I mean, if Wisdom Tree is selling it, or Van Eck, or like Fidelity, they'll probably pick up some. You can see. I think you'll start seeing some more billions pouring in there for sure, right? So
the thing I wanted to compare is I think it's 1.7 trillion is now the whole market cap value of crypto. That'll be interesting. That'll be a benchmark to look at, because I do remember 2017 it had crossed the trillion mark for the first time. So when it swells, right, all rising tide raises all boats.
It's just for fun. BlackRock. Let's see, so BlackRock's asset under management is 8 points. So BlackRock alone has like 4 times the size of the crypto market in their own assets under management.
Isn't that insane?
That's insanity. Yeah.
So what's Van Eck? Go back to
massive bull flag for crypto.
Okay. So interesting. No, it's just going to be a really interesting. I think it's always been an interesting time to be in crypto or into blockchain, Web3, whatever. Right? Since I've been in it, it's always been interesting, whether it's good or bad. It's just been interesting.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It's a crazy time. I'm glad we got into crypto like when we did, because I think a lot of people are starting to get into it, but it's cool to see this evolution of, the adoption of crypto. And I remember like when we first started out with, it was Crypto 528 back then. If you remember, we've rebranded twice already. But back in the Crypto 528 days, people were like, "Oh, they were still saying crypto was a fad. It wasn't going to stick around. You're wasting your money. Crypto is going to go away. It's done. And now it's like it just keeps going through, man. All the haters, they keep hating, but they're just kicking themselves for not buying it. I think really, I would be.
So what else have you got, Mark? Because I got a couple things I'm going to share as well. This year,
SEC sues Binance and Coinbase. Yeah,
that's right.
Classic. When is SEC not suing? And I think my favorite was they were suing Coinbase. Yeah, it was like they're just, I don't know. The SEC is just like jokes, man. I don't know what these guys are doing.
You're right. And so I was listening to the year-end wrap-up, and they were talking about, there was discussion of the Wells notices that were being issued, and there was Melton Demir's, one of the quotes. She says, this is a banana republic level of going on in legislation in the U.S."
Yeah, there's a senator. Hold on, Republican.
It's Warner, Senator Warner.
Is it Warren? Gary
Senator Warren.
Right?
Yeah. She's anti-crypto.
No. Senator
Warren. It's what's her?
I guess no. There was another one. I saw a tweet. No, wait. There was one. Oh, it was corruption. I think that was what it was. I can't remember. But I saw. Oh, here you go. Yeah. Senator Kennedy confronts SEC on crypto. There was like, I saw another like a tweet just randomly. I can't remember who it was, but it was a senator calling for now is a good time to get rid of Gary Gensler and expose all the corruption. It was like, man, these guys are so corrupt, just SEC. But it was a senator, like a United States senator saying Gary Gensler
against him because Elizabeth Warren is the one. She's she's really pushing.
Corrupt. Yeah. But anyway, continuing on. Ripple wins partial.
And so that was a good. So Ripple came back. Ripple.
That's right.
Forever they were kind of in limbo, right?
Forever, man. I remember like Ripple was one of the first, like XRP was one of the first cryptos I ever bought, and that was like 2018 probably. Yeah. And back then, the reason I had bought it because they were fighting the lawsuit since before 2018, I think. But I was like, oh man, if they win this lawsuit, it's gonna like explode. So I had bought it. And then 2021, I think it hit like $1 or something, and I just sold it. I was like, oh man, I was already.
It hit $1.17. I remember it hit $1.17.
Yeah.
And it was like, this is a $10 billion market cap. It was just insane.
Yeah, I think I had bought it for like 20 some. I was up like 4x on it, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna take my 4x off the table. So I sold it, and I'm glad I did. But yeah, I mean, that stuff's been going on forever, this court case, and finally they partially settled, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
still going.
And there's
I
Three
hear
Arrows Capital.
the
So Three
judges
Arrows Capital,
denied. Was that?
they Three Arrows Capital was tied
Yeah.
into the Gemini and the
Oh,
whole
that's it. I
the
had to go back and
Genesis.
refresh myself on like what they were doing, but I forgot. Not only were they in, so they were in they're defaulting on Voyager, the crypto bank Voyager. They were
Yeah.
part of they were part of Luna, so they were part of that, the collapse of Terra.
And
Uh,
Celsius. So
yeah, and Celsius and FTX, they were just like the worst hedge fund ever. Like they had the worst investments. They were just invested in like all these shit. And the thing that blows my mind is like, yeah, how do you not doing like your DD on this stuff, right? But anyway, those
but
guys
they
are
so
going.
they were in the cap table. I've got some some of the cap tables from 17 8 from 19 20 21. They were in the cap table, much the same as
Yeah.
FTX. They were in
Hmm.
there as well. So it was interesting. As you said, they're hedge fund, but they
Yeah.
were they found the wrong partners.
Yeah, there he is. He's getting arrested. That sucks. But and then yeah, of course, continuing on, SBF, man, classic. That guy. Man, I remember like reading the court documents and he's like, trying to pretend that he's not guilty. And it's like,
Yeah.
man, like you are just a real scumbag, eh? Like, oh, I had no idea that all these billions of dollars was going missing. How would I know that? Like,
It's incredible
oh,
how they just
how these
the
morons get
two
like these
the trading
positions,
company Alameda, right? Alameda
Yeah,
intertwined the two were, and they issued their own stock. It's like their own coin, right?
yeah.
Their
They
own
were
coin,
inflating it
FTX
up and
coin.
then right. And then using it to borrow and yeah, it's just crazy, man. But it's like what blows my mind is the investors, right? Because I mean, you'd think like I'd be wanting to see at least quarterly financial statements if I put like a couple hundred mil into these companies. And it's like, how does that not come about if you're looking at the financials and you're like, hey, there's $8 billion loan to like Alameda. I mean, how are they hiding that? Anyway, blows my mind. Um, going on here, DOJ settles case. Oh yeah, first they brought the case against CZ, right? And then settled for 4.3
But
billion.
what
That just
blows
sounds
me
like a
away, if you
shakedown to
listen
me.
to CZ talk, if you listen to
Yeah,
him during 2022, when
yeah,
he basically said, no, he claims to be the whistleblower on saying
right.
Bankman-Fried or FTX, right? And the white
Hmm.
knight, they were going to be a white knight, and they said no. They decided because once they looked at the balance sheet, and he turns around a year later, and he's paying
Yeah,
a massive fine. He steps down as the head of Binance,
yeah,
and he's my good thing. I mean, I'm not saying good thing, but Binance did not crumble like the rest of some of these others.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it is what it's for. I mean, he's in going to jail now. But it's funny, man. All these like decentralized exchanges, all these guys like
Yeah, yeah.
their origin stories. Like same with Do Kwon. Like here, Do Kwon. Here's the next article. Do Kwon, right? Another guy, like
Isn't Do
another
Kwon part of
sketchy ass. That was
Three Arrows
Terra.
Capital?
No, no. Well, he was tied to it, but he was that was Terra Luna collapse, right? So that was him behind that
Yeah.
stuff. It's just like these sketchy ass dudes, man. Um, yeah, that's pretty.
No, but
Well, I mean,
this
that's
is
like,
what
of
they
course, there's
issued
a
their
lot more
coin.
articles, but
Luna coin, right? They issued the coin, which was the
yeah, they had
same.
an
What they
algorithmic stable coin that was like pegged to Luna because they had
Yeah.
Terra, like I think it was TUSD. I can't remember now, but they had like Terra. Yeah, I think it was TUSD, which was pegged to Luna, which was it was just like the whole thing was just like a house of cards, man. But
Well, so that speaks. So
yeah.
one of the 2023 recaps that I came across, they mentioned Celsius. Now, Celsius
Mhm.
was basically declared bankruptcy in 2022, but a
Yeah.
lot of was cleared up in 2023. But
Hmm.
they were issuing their own coin, Celsius, and then they were buying other crypto assets with their own coin, but
Right.
propping up the value of Cell or CEL. And
Hmm.
I think it was trading at $8 at one point. But I wanted to
Okay.
go the first time the founder, I don't know if you heard of the founder of Celsius, is Alex Mashinsky.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So in 2018, I want to go back. In 2018, I first saw Alex. He was on stage. There was
Hmm.
Bill Bardite Abra Global, their crypto wallet and DeFi trading platform. And then on the other chair was Nouriel Roubini. I don't know if are you familiar with Nouriel Roubini?
No, that's new to me.
So he's referred to as Dr. Doom. So he made predictions in 2008 and the subprime financial crisis, and he became Dr. Doom, right? So they were on the stage. So he's anti-crypto. In fact, one of the comments, it was a very famous tweet in October 2018, but on that stage, he referred to 99% of crypto 90 is one shit coin traded for another shit coin.
Oh yeah.
And so Alex Mashinsky said, look, I get it. There's a lot of doubts about what's happening in technology, but he said the technology is real, and he referred to the 1990s when VoIP, voice over internet protocol. It goes in the 90s. We just made international calls. We didn't look at the technology. So he talked about the technology working. Of course, fast forward 5 years, and Celsius is bankrupt, and I think they got ahead of themselves. But he believed in the technology. That's what I respected, right? When he talked about the technology, because later,
well,
later
he was a scumbag, man. He just stole money from all his investors, right?
But later, so you get the bad actors, right? But there was a debate that back in 2018, a debate between Vitalik Buterin and Dr. Doom, Dr. Doom, Nouriel Roubini, and it was like Ethereum founder Vitalik Buterin throws shade at Bitcoin bashing economists. So he literally, if you read it, he just called him. He had some names. Vitalik should have been sued for slander. So I looked at some of that history, that dialogue back in 2018. So I wanted to bring that up because it's interesting. Sorry, my Zoom call. It's interesting how you fast forward, and my reference point was, wow. I mean, I respected Ethereum, or not Ethereum. I respected Alex Mashinsky and Celsius back in the day, and he said some pretty smart things. But as you said, Mark, he became a bad actor.
He's a scumbag, yeah. Well, anyway, okay, that's all. I mean, I was gonna wrap up with some predictions for 2024, crypto predictions, but I think you had some articles you want to cover.
I've hit the other. It's not really articles, but just the that quote, and then Genesis. I want to talk about the Genesis bankruptcy because again, I knew the backstory a little bit about the Winklevoss twins in Gemini. So Genesis bankrupt, they were part of the Three Arrows Capital, kind of hedging, kind of this tie up. But the Gemini boys, the Winklevoss twins, they were. I just watched the the Social Network with Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook, right? And they sued him because they IP infringement. I think they settled for like $18 to $20 million.
Something like that.
So but they came for money. Allegedly, they came for money. So it wasn't like Gemini wouldn't have. They were always there, going to Harvard and so forth. So it's just interesting. I just watched that, and then I heard that the Gemini Genesis bankruptcy issue that happened in 2023. So that's pretty much all I have for today, Mark.
Oh, you didn't want none of the fundraising announcements? I
didn't have there was only 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks in one of my newsletters, they closed pretty much for Christmas, the strictly VC newsletter. So it was really thin scrapings, but I'll find something in the new year. We'll definitely, I'm sure, I cannot say nobody's getting funded, but certainly, it's interesting, Mark, the year-end wrap-ups where everybody was covering year-end wrap-ups. So, the podcasts I listened to, TechCrunch, Bloomberg, Crypto, Laura Shinnon on Unchained, they were all covering the what happened last year, 2023. So this is it, Mark. Happy New Year.
I just want so top crypto picks for 2024. I mean, of course, you got the standards, Bitcoin, Ethereum, but I'm gonna throw it up and throw a little Solana in there, plus Chainlink. I know the guys at Chainlink, and they are doing a fantastic job. Got lots of big things coming, so I would also hold some bags of Link as well. And then, of course, Cross Token, gotta do a self-plug there, so Cross Token coming March, yeah, Cross Token for SwapAcross will be coming out March of 2024. That's our target. So if you're interested, we'll post some links below, and got the new website coming up pretty soon. So hop on the wait list, get your bags early, so you're ready for a 10x.
I don't have any
10x
predictions on
portfolio
specific
next
crypto,
year.
Mark.
That's the goal.
For me, I just encouraged by the builders, looking at the builders and that layer 2, and and I'm going X528. When I first time I saw the demo of X528, or now SwapAcross, for me that's the familiarity, the comfort, the Robin Hood of they say earlier I talked about the Robin Hood, one of the fellows, the head of crypto at Robin Hood, right? It's education, getting people on, and that familiarity is really important, and
That's
so.
it.
Building
Exactly.
the rails to allow people to onboard onto crypto, not just the existing OGs in the space, but the traditional money folks, the everyday grandma. So let's have. Did you have your discussion with your parents yesterday at your final dinner before you left Edmonton? Did you ask them what they think of crypto, or you didn't have that discussion?
Oh, well, I mean, they just know that I'm like doing crypto, but I don't think my dad would ever. I mean, hopefully that our goal is to make our app so simple that
Yeah,
like my mom can use it. My mom actually bought Shiba Inu. Funny enough, she was using Wealth Simple, and they
yeah,
had some kind of like promotion. And so she was like, I bought some crypto. Like this is a while back. I think it's last year.
yeah,
She's like, I
yeah,
was like, what did you buy? She's like, Shiba Inu. I think she put like $500 or something in it. And I was like,
yeah. Yeah.
okay, interesting. Very interesting. But
So
it's
she
just
dabbled, right? So
yeah, but
that's
it's
it,
just
right?
like making it easy to use, right? That's
That's
it.
right.
And
That's
purchase,
right.
that's it.
So that's when I saw you create, the app you guys have, and the mobile app, or the
Hmm.
web version, doesn't matter, is that familiarity, like Robin Hood. Robin
Yep.
Hood's successful because they just mimicked normal trading. So that Robin Hood like approach, or the Wealth
Hmm.
Simple, or the Ameritrade, whatever it was in its day, to be able to go from regular trading and calling your broker to doing it
Yep.
in your hand now
Click of a
through.
finger.
Yeah. Mark, well, have
Exactly.
a happy New Year. Enjoy. I know you've got
You
big
too, buddy.
plans coming up,
I
and
gotta tell you again, I'm loving the sweater, man. Loving the sweater vest, looking good.
this is not a
You're
crypto
looking dapper.
sweater.
You
This is
can
an
tell you're ready to
Argyle.
go out tonight.
This
The wife's
is an
dragging you out tonight, isn't
Argyle.
she?
This is the old day. This is kind of the university days level, the Argyle sweaters and so forth. But
Yeah.
speaking of Winklevoss twins, I mean, that reminds me of that prep school, being in,
Yeah,
Harvard.
that's what it is.
I recommend that show. I recommend, if you want to see some history of Facebook, it's a pretty good, it's a pretty cool movie. I never,
Oh, Social Network?
yeah, it's a pretty good movie.
Yeah, it's a good one. That was one of my favorites actually. Social
All right,
Network.
Mark.
It's a
Well,
good movie.
that in Boiler Room.
Oh
Boiler
yeah,
Room.
that's a classic. Yeah.
That's Vin Diesel, classic, classic movie.
Yeah.
All right, Mark.
All right, buddy. Happy
Well,
New
enjoy
Year.
your New Year's. We'll be
See you
back
in the
again.
talk to you in the new year. All right, later, brother.